Hi, today in this session, I am going to guide you through Gratuity Act. You must be aware what is gratuity. So in this session, I will be covering about the meaning, applicability of gratuity, important terms that are used in gratuity, eligibility, how to determine the amount, how the computations and payment has been done for gratuity, and if there's any tax implications on gratuity. So first of all, the gratuity is applicable to whole of India and it shall be applicable to every factory, mine, oil field, plantation, port and railway companies and also the establishments or cluster of establishments which is having more than 10 employees. Okay, so next coming to gratuity. Gratuity is some amount which has been given to an employee on completion or equivalent to 5 years. So that is eligible in case when you're leaving the company and if you have crossed your 5 years of services in a company without uninterrupted services. There are few important terms which you will have to understand in gratuity. Firstly, retirement. Retirement means termination of services of an employee. That is like an employee may retire by himself or during the end of contract, he will be asked to retire. So that is called as retirement. And there's one more term as superannuation. In this, when an employee attains certain age, then he will have to resign from his job and that's called a retire superannuation. Disablement means is an employee when he is not able to perform his duty, maybe because of any disease or accident which has occurred during his employment. One of the important term you will have to understand is wages. When you say wages in gratuity, it means the last on basic plus generous allowances. And continuous services. Continuous services means there should not be any in uninterrupted services during the period of employment. That is, in case if you have worked for 2 years and you're resigning a job and joining after 2 months, you're completing a service of 3 years, then you will not be eligible for gratuity because there's an interruption in the services. How do you determine the amount of gratuity? When you have to know what is the amount that's going to be determined for your gratuity, then you have to make an application to the employer. Then employer will then value your gratuity amount. That is, he will in return give a response to you as a notice that after determining the value of your gratuity which is payable to you, and it is the responsibility of the employer to make the payment of gratuity within 30 days from the date it becomes payable. Coming to the eligibility of gratuity. So, as you all know, gratuity is applicable for an employee who's completed a service of equal to 5 or more than 5 years. And in that case, in case of superannuation, in case of retirement or resignation, in case of death or disablement due to an accident or disease, an employee will be eligible to get his gratuity. And what are the modes the gratuity can be paid? It can be a fund transfer, NEFT or RTGS, or through a bank check or through a demand draft. Mentioned before, here I have mentioned a little bit in detail. So the gratuity is applicable for the employee who's done 5 years of services at the time of retirement. It can be voluntary retirement or it could be a termination because of the contract is getting complete or due to a company side's layoff. It could be a resignation where the employee voluntarily himself goes and says that he wants to leave the job. It could be a dismissal from the company where the contract is getting to an end, or it could be the death, or it could be because of the disability during the course of being an employee. It's just not an employer has to know the gratuity. It's a right of the employee to know what is gratuity, if they are eligible, how it is going to be. So here I have given a formula how the gratuity is getting calculated. So the gratuity is usually calculated on the last drawn salary, that is your last basic plus DA, into the number of services, number of years of services you have completed during your employment, into 15 divided by 26. So here 26 means in a month that's going to be considered as 26 days. Okay, so let's assume that Ramu was getting a salary of 30,000. That is, his basic plus DA was 30,000 and he has worked for 7 years. And then what would be his gratuity? So that the calculation will have to go like 30,000 into 7 years of services into 15 days divided by 26 days, which will come up to 1,21,154 rupees. This is also something important which you will have to know. Is the gratuity amount taxable? Yes, gratuity amount is taxable once it crosses the limit. The exemption limit is 20 lakh rupees. So in order to know the exemption limit and to know your eligibility for getting a tax exemption, there's a formula, that is your last on salary into the number of years of employment into 15 by 26, as we have seen in the previous example, or 20 lakh rupees, or the gratuity actually received. So in order to understand this, I have provided an example which will help you to. Now let's understand this with an example. Here Rohan is getting a salary of 1 lakh rupees, that is basic plus DA is 1 lakh per month, and he is entitled to receive a gratuity of 11 lakh 53,000, and he has completed a service of 19 years and 7 months. So here, as he's completed 7 months, we have to round off the number of years services to 20. So here I can see, as you can see, last round salary was 1 lakh, number of years of employment was 20, is 20 because it's more than 6 months. We have rounded off to the next number. The gratuity formula has been applied here, where he's applicable for 11 lakh 53,000. So as mentioned in the above one, we'll have to calculate the least of three. That is the actual gratuity computation. What is the actual gratuity which he has received, and what is the exemption limit which has been provided. So out of these three, if you see, the least value is the actual gratuity received. So the amount which he is received as 11 lakh 53,846 rupees will be exempted from. Here are certain important points which you will have to know regarding the gratuity. So as per the Act, for the calculation of 5 years, 1 year means you will have to work for 240 days, and that does not involve any underground work. And for those working underground in mines, it shall be 190 working days will be considered as 1 year. Any employee, contractual worker, or temporary individual who has done work for at least 5 continuous years without any interruption of services, then he shall be eligible for gratuity. And and this 5 years is not applicable in case if there's any death or disablement of an employee. And for the purpose of considering the number of completion of years of services, we'll have to round off the number of months to the nearest digit. So suppose in case if an employee has worked for 10 years and 7 months, then we have, as it's more than 6 months, then we'll have to consider to the next round of number, that is 11. And if the same employee has worked for 10 years and 3 months, then we'll have to round off this number of services as 10 years. There are certain forms which has to be maintained with respect to gratuity. That is Form A, notice of opening; Form B, notice of change; Form C, notice of closure. All these three forms is something which we have to submit to the respective authority, to the department. And Form F is a nomination form which has to be collected by the employer from the employee. Form G will be a fresh nomination. Form H in case if there is any modification in the nomination. Form I is the application for gratuity by an employee. Form J, application for gratuity by a nominee. That is, in an absence of an employee, it will be applied by the nominee. Then the Form J has to be used. Form K, application for gratuity by a legal hire. Form L, notice for payment of gratuity. Form M, notice rejecting the claim of payment of gratuity. Form N, application of an employee of labor commission. And finally the Form T, application for recovery of